Howdy again everyone. Well, Canon have taken everyone by surprise by introducing a 32.5 megapixel aps-c sensor to the world in their new 90D and M6 Mark II cameras, and that's an amazingly high resolution for aps-c. Slightly annoying for me though. In order to keep on top of the latest resolution sensors for you in my tests, that means I needed to upgrade. So I got rid of my badly aging Canon EOS M3 and I got an M6 Mark II to replace it. And at this point I should definitely thank my amazing Patreon subscribers for helping me to invest back into this channel. Your support is really appreciated. To be honest, I was sick and tired of my old Canon EOS M3 anyway. I never really liked its noisy image quality, poor dynamic range and slow autofocus and slow general behaviour. I can tell you now that the EOS M6 Mark II is an absolute world away from those older EOS M cameras, and after a few weeks of testing, I absolutely love it so far. I'm someone who's much more interested in making reviews of camera lenses than reviews of cameras themselves, but people do ask me to test cameras, so here's just a little mini review of it to tide those people over. I'll just be keeping it really simple, telling you what I like and don't like about it. If you want an in-depth review, then go to DP Review or Camera Labs or something. They test cameras far better than me. Anyway, here's what I like about the Canon EOS M6 Mark II. By the way, all the sample pictures you'll see in this video are taken with the EFM 15-45mm kit lens. Firstly, I can tell you now that I love its image quality. It's an aps-c camera, so its images are still a little grainy, a little noisy, but considering that we're shooting at 32.5 megapixels here, it's not too bad, being only a tiny bit more noisy than Sony and Fuji's 24 megapixel cameras. I would say that the Canon camera's tiny increase in noise is well worth it for the major boost in resolution that you get. By the way, here's my preferred setting for the sharpest image quality in JPEG mode for you. Now, paired with a lens that's actually sharp enough, that means this camera could be a dream come true for landscape photographers who value portability. And you'll be pleasantly surprised just how sharp Canon's kit lens actually is in the middle of your images anyway. And as for the camera's aps-c noise, well, I actually really like the quality of its grain. It actually looks nice and natural to me, not being full of ugly colours. The graininess is there, but it looks oddly attractive, if that makes sense to you. Also, the camera's dynamic range is okay, and I got good results shooting with highlight tone priority. In this picture particularly, I was able to pull my highlights right down for the rushing water. Next, the camera's dual pixel autofocus and eye autofocus feature works fantastic. It's so sharp and accurate, it's really out of this world. I love this camera's autofocus. But what I couldn't get enough of was the initial autofocus set point for tracking feature. Let me explain what that is, because it's awesome. To get to it, firstly, set autofocus to tracking mode and then onto servo mode. Then, in the camera's menu, select Initial AF Point Set for Tracking, like so. Now, your screen looks like this. If you aim at your subject and half press the shutter button, then whatever was in the middle is now locked into focus, no matter what you do. This is perfect for portrait photography, keeping your subject's eye in focus, no matter how much you move the camera or walk forwards or backwards. This is just about the coolest autofocus feature I've ever seen in a camera, and I can't get enough of it. Next, speed. This camera works quickly and is really fast as you're shooting and reviewing your images, and it can even shoot at up to 14 frames per second, which again is out of this world. There's also the famous raw burst shooting mode, letting you shoot cropped 18 megapixel images at 30 frames per second, with half a second of shots before you fully depress the shutter button. That would be amazing for sports photography, if ever I did any. I also really like the quality of the camera's touchscreen. It's bright, very clear and non-reflective, and the touchscreen menus are responsive. I wish it was just a tiny bit higher resolution though. You can see a tiny crosshatch effect if you look at it too closely. Alright, that's what I liked about the camera. Here's a little overview of the things I don't like. To be honest, nothing dreadfully serious here. The camera's build quality doesn't feel as good as Sony or Fuji's mid-range aps-c options. They feel tough and metallic, whereas the top and bottom plates of this Canon camera feel a bit plasticky and infirm. But at least the camera is nice and light. Secondly, well, the good news is that this camera can give you 4K video footage without any crop, which is brilliant. The bad news is that it really is very soft 4K footage. Here it is compared to my Sony camera when shooting in aps-c mode. Really disappointing there. Still though, it's more detail than if you're shooting in 1080p. Next, Canon's EFM system lenses are slowly diversifying, but there's a serious lack of decent telephoto lenses on the system, something to take you past 200mm. For example, look at this new aps-c lens Sony have just launched, taking you to a huge 350mm. Generally, it really would be great to see some more interesting EFM lenses coming out. Next, for a camera at this price point, it's a bit of a shame that we lose out on a built-in electronic viewfinder, which can often be useful. Still, you can get one separately that plugs in the camera's hot shoe, but that's a little fiddly. Just imagine if you lost it. Apparently, that little electronic viewfinder is good quality, but you won't be able to use the hot shoe for anything else with it in place. Also, there's the lack of in-body image stabilization. Canon really need to wake up and smell the coffee there, although if you're shooting video, I found the electronic image stabilization surprisingly good. It doesn't seem to impact your final video quality much, although it does crop your image a bit. And there are other minuscule things as well. The battery life isn't particularly impressive, and the ergonomics are just okay. The buttons feel a bit squidgy on it. So there you go. There is my unbelievably lazy mini review of the Canon EOS M6 Mark II. Honestly, I love this camera, not just for how enjoyable to use and high quality it is, but for what it represents. Canon finally waking up and trying to keep up with the competition and producing an awesome little piece of equipment as a result. Sony and Fuji cameras offer better quality 4K video, and the Fuji cameras have a build quality and character of their own, but this Canon camera has plenty of advantages of its own, not least those lovely Canon colours for landscape, easy to use and accurate autofocus, and extra high resolution too. If I could only have one aps-c mirrorless camera, then right now this would probably be it, to be honest. If only there were some more EFM lenses out there.